This is Wallet Brief, where we break down what actually moved the U.S. economy this week, without the noise. If prices, interest rates, jobs, housing, or taxes are quietly changing your money, this is where you stay informed. Let's get into what really happened this week, and what it means for your wallet. Over the past few months, inflation in the U.S. has been slowly cooling from its earlier highs, but not evenly. Essentials like housing and food have stayed stubborn, while categories like energy and used goods have shown more volatility. The overall trend has been gradual improvement, but still above the comfort zone policymakers are aiming for. You can think of it like a slow descent rather than a sharp drop. This week, the latest inflation data showed a mixed picture. Headline inflation edged slightly lower compared to recent months, signaling that price pressures are easing at a broad level. However, core inflation, which strips out food and energy, remained relatively firm. Rent and service-related costs continue to push prices upward, even as some goods become more affordable. At the same time, grocery prices showed small but noticeable increases again, especially in categories like fresh produce and packaged foods. Energy costs remained relatively stable this week, which helped prevent a sharper rise in overall inflation. So what's the real trend right now? Inflation is cooling, but unevenly. The big picture suggests that progress is happening, but not fast enough to declare victory. The areas that affect daily life the most, like housing, insurance, and services, are still showing persistent pressure. That's why even when overall numbers improve, many households don't feel immediate relief. This week reinforces a mixed signal trend. Inflation is no longer surging, but it's also not fully under control. It's stabilizing at a level that still impacts everyday spending decisions. So how does this hit your money? For most households, this means your monthly expenses are still creeping up, just more slowly than before. Rent, insurance, and everyday services may continue to feel expensive, while some items like electronics or used goods may feel slightly more affordable. Grocery bills may not spike dramatically, but they're also not dropping in a meaningful way. For savings and budgeting, this environment rewards consistency. Even small price increases over time add up, so keeping an eye on recurring expenses matters more than ever. Looking ahead to next week, markets will be watching for additional signals from upcoming economic reports, especially any updates tied to consumer spending and producer prices. These will give early clues about whether inflation is continuing to cool or if certain categories are starting to heat up again. That's your wallet brief for this week. These changes don't always make headlines, but they do change how much you pay, save, and earn. We'll be back next week with the updates that matter. Until then, stay informed and protect your wallet.